What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Today we got a big one. Got some pretty big updates in the, wait for it, remember, it's been a couple of years now. Panini v Fanatics Antitrust / Monopoly nonsense. And you know what happens anytime something legal goes on? We turn to the hobby's lawyer, one Mr. Paul Lesko's Twitter threads. I would highly encourage you all to go read through the entirety of the thread if you are interested. We are going to touch on a couple of just key highlights here. I may end up having Paul on the channel to discuss this further. We just had some scheduling conflicts to try to put it together quickly, but he may be a upcoming guest on the channel to discuss this a little more in depth. So we'll just take it from a very high level approach here. So this case was Panini suing Fanatics, saying, hey, you guys are a monopoly. Stop it. They should not be allowed to do this. And at the same time, Fanatics fired back and say, hey, you guys did dirty business practices. Screw you guys, was essentially the long and the short of it. Motions to dismiss, kick this thing out of court, and you don't really have a case, were filed on both sides, and today we have the key rulings on those. So the key thing to keep in mind here, the case was not decided today. Essentially, the judge is saying, here's what you all can move forward on. Here are the parts that we will allow you to bring to court, and they are some doozies. Like I said, we're going to keep this high level. This is a very long Twitter thread, so I just want to touch on a couple key things. So let's move a little bit lower into the thread, and this is really the key thing here. Counts 1 through 3, the court holds Panini adequately pleaded that Fanatics currently possesses a monopoly power as demonstrated through its ability to set prices, exclude competitors. Some key notes here: threat of future exclusions from the market, setting of minimum price requirements, require big box retailers to give Fanatics higher margins, requiring retailers to carry only Fanatics trading cards, lock up key rookie players, pressure Panini's employees into joining Fanatics. And just to double down on this, this is Lesko's tweet here. Disclaimer, this ruling does not mean Panini has proven what it needs to win. Now, there's some other nonsense here. I'm not going to try to explain it because, to be quite honest, I fully don't understand it. Essentially, they almost have to do this with each individual license, is the way that I understood it in the thread here. They were attempting to get it all consolidated down into one, but it appears like they have to kind of make their argument on each one independently. I could be a little bit wrong on that. Like I said, double check the Twitter thread, read through the whole entire thing. There is a lot of moving parts on this one. One of the more interesting notes that I found was the one around the rookie exclusivity, where they're going out and signing like Wemby and Stroud and stuff to autograph deals. And I think Fanatics would have a pretty good leg to stand in on this one, because part of the court's argument here is the star rookie players, which it could not effectively utilize because it lacked the supporting licenses. So this little statement right here. So essentially, and I'm, once again, not a lawyer, not a judge. The way that I read that is the judge is basically saying, why are you locking these guys up? You don't have the licenses to make Victor Wembanyama cards. You don't have the ability to make CJ Stroud cards, when they actually did. They had the unlicensed version. I even actually tweeted at Lesko, and I said, I have to imagine Fanatics would have a pretty good leg to stand on this one, because they have the sales history from the unlicensed product. They can literally go to the court and say, hey, we signed Wemby to an exclusive autograph deal. Because of that, look at all the products we were able to make. We were able to make Murky, or we were able to make Topps Chrome Basketball. We were able to make Sapphire. We were able to make this football product. We were able to sell all these Stroud Topps instant cards with autograph chasers because we had agreements with those players. Now, the court might not see it that way. I have no idea. But I have to imagine that would be a pretty compelling case against at least the rookie player section of this. Now, on the flip side, Fanatics was also suing Panini for some nonsense, bad practice, bad faith in negotiations, and a handful of other things. A lot of those got tossed out. The one that remained was Panini blocking employees to go work at Fanatics. Essentially, Panini was threatening suit against employees if they went and worked at Fanatics, and Fanatics says you can't do that. They don't have non-compete clauses. And in this case, the judge essentially agreed and said, yeah, you shouldn't be able to do that. Let's go to court and figure it out. So that was the one big win for Fanatics. But Panini, to me, as an outsider looking in, seems like the one that is the biggest winner of today, because this case is now going to go forward. It could still take years to play itself out. I don't know, and this is some of the questions I would have for Paul if we get him on. What does now the future hold? To me, it looks like there's a few different paths. Does this bring the two companies back to the table to sit down and negotiate in good faith? Because it sounds like they were really, there was all those rumors back in late 2023 that, hey, this thing's like a done deal. We are right there at the finish line. And it never actually happened. Does this, I don't want to say force their hands, but does this kind of like ignite the fire to get them back to the table to try to figure this thing out and put actually a little bit more pressure on Fanatics to get a deal done? It would actually probably help Panini's negotiating side a little bit. Because remember, back in 2023, they had no leverage. They were about to lose all their licenses in a couple years. They were a ticking time bomb. The second those licenses switch over, the only thing Panini really has is the IP to their individual sets, like Prism, National Treasures, Flawless, Optic, that sort of stuff that would have some value, but without the licenses behind it would be a lot weaker, which is kind of similar to what Fanatics ended up doing, how they got Topps. So now Panini would have a little bit more leverage to say, hey, this case is going to go forward. If you don't want it to meet our demands, meet our price, or they're in a little bit better position to negotiate. Now, maybe Panini says, screw it. F you guys. They're an Italian company. Who the hell knows? They might take this a little personal, if you know what I mean, and say, we're going to the mattresses and we're playing this thing out. That could 100% be in play as well. Now, what I don't know is, what does a win look like for either company? If this goes to court and Fanatics wins, I assume it's business as usual. They would carry on with what they're doing, and Panini would slink off to the corner and figure things out. I guess my real question is what would happen if Panini would win? I don't think that they could put the toothpaste back in the tube. My gut, and once again, I have no idea if this is right or wrong. This is a question I would have for Paul. Does this allow the licenses to potentially be non-exclusive, where it's, okay, Fanatics, you could do your thing over here, feel free, but Panini can also, the licenses cannot be exclusive. Panini has to be in play as well. And, I don't know, that has its own other set of circumstances, because I have to imagine Fanatics and the leagues negotiated a premium because the licenses were going to be exclusive. There was all that revenue sharing on the back end for the leagues. And I'm sure a lot of that is going to be Fanatics' argument when they bring this thing to court on the reason why that it's not necessarily a monopoly. Because you can, as Paul's mentioned before, there's essentially illegal monopolies and legal monopolies. And Panini is fighting the war for the fact that they built an illegal monopoly. If Fanatics can show that, hey, we're doing everything on the up and up, yes, we might have some, a little bit of monopolistic like tendencies, but it's better for it. The leagues are making out way more. We're putting more money in everyone's pockets. The players have a better end of the deal. The products are better. The consumers are more happy. Good luck proving that. And all those sorts of things. This is not set in stone. This is not Fanatics has lost. It's, you are allowed to continue, Panini, down this path and see what happens. So those are kind of the interesting things to really come out of this. But, this is a court case. This could still take years to figure out. And as Paul closes out, it will be fun to see what comes up in Discovery, though probably all the juicy bits will be redacted and we won't really know what's going on there. But we'll see what happens next. Do you think that this sends them to the table to talk? Or do you think we're going to court? This thing can still go 100 different ways. Fanatics could still end up being the big bad powerhouse that they are, and Panini gets shoved to the side. Maybe we end up at a point where both of them have some sort of license or a co-license agreement where they can both produce cards. Who knows? Way still much undetermined in this one. But the big key thing is it does get to move forward. And that's going to put pressure on both parties to potentially get something done or to war. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. If you have any specific questions for Paul, if I get him on the channel, feel free to fire off in the comments down below. He's very willing. We just have to figure out schedules. That's all I got. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.